Hi everyone, this is Jim Tolles, and today I want to talk about spiritual awakening and lack of concentration. For a lot of people, when the awakening arises inside, really when it comes forth, because this awakened state it simply is here, it just gets kind of covered up like a layer of ice over the water. At some point, that ice cracks and something rises up. And suddenly there's kind of all this heat and steam, right, that clouds everything, and people can kind of feel lost in this space. And depending on somebody's ego, depends on how they feel about this type of lost. For some people, they just feel lost in bliss. They're just like, wow, I'm just going to float here and don't really care about what's going on in the world and don't feel a need to try and think in old ways or to pull themselves back into their old habits and old routines. And for people who've been exploring different states of awareness, different spiritual experiences, this may just kind of build on that. So there's already kind of a mental understanding that you can have these different states of awareness, and that's okay. And being okay with it allows it, and so people kind of surf through this time period in this space. For other people, it's a lot more challenging because they didn't know that you could have another state of awareness. People were so used to a certain frame of thinking and acting and really living their whole life that they had no idea that it was just one dot in a whole sphere of experiences. So when suddenly they realize that there's another dot out there, and especially the awakening, just realize that there's countless, infinite numbers of dots of ways to think and to act and to live, it really can overwhelm them. And so this can become a time of great turbulence, and people will get really, really upset. It's like, oh my God, I can't think straight. And then, usually the things that draw people most back into the world are, having to take care of a job or a family or a household and all these types of things. And because the way people are used to thinking is gone and they can't concentrate in that way, they get more upset. So there's a couple different ways, I can talk about this further, and one of which is that most people have been trained to think in very fearful ways. Fear is so indoctrinated into us that we don't realize how scared we are. It's just part of our life and part of our thinking. And so the thinking goes for some women like, I have to be beautiful, right? And that's actually built up of a lot of layers of fear that usually end up going back to a fear of death. And I can step it down where being beautiful is a type of social approval. So other people like you. Not being liked by other people, you become kind of an outcast. At the deeper level, being outcast from the tribe or the community would leave you on your own. Being on your own, it's less likely you could survive and get resources. You're afraid of death. It seems like a long step back, and it's why I'm always talking to people about doing their own journaling to find out what this means to them, because that's the only way you can own the idea. Me telling it to you doesn't really help you as much as you learning it for yourself to say, like, this is what I'm really scared of. Or maybe it is simply just not feeling loved, right? Being beautiful is a way to feel loved by your mother or your father or whatnot, whatever. So that's one way to kind of look at the commitment people have to certain ways of thinking. And so when the awakening comes and Washington says, that idea of beauty is stupid. It's gone. It doesn't make sense. There's no need to focus yourself in that way. And it takes out other ideas about how to take care of yourself and to live and to act. So suddenly it's like the slate has been wiped clean. And so that sort of lack of focus initially is because all the old patterns that you're used to focusing through are gone. Although what usually happens is people start to grab back for the old. And so they kind of re-energize those old ways of fearful thinking. And that tends to cause more turbulence for people in their awakening, because now you've got this one part that's awake and you've got this other part that's trying to put itself back to sleep because it thinks it has to think in this way. It doesn't realize that there are infinite and different ways to think. And so in the embodying of this awakening, there really is a repatterning of how we think in our brains and how we concentrate and how we let go of the need to concentrate in certain ways. Because in some respects, there are certain people who are over concentrated, just always focused, always doing, always concentrating on different things. And the mind doesn't need to do that constantly. There's a lot more space to not think, which tends to go right in the face of a lot of ideas that, thinking is just vital to everyday living. And more often than not, the more you think, the more upset you kind of are. You're caught up in yourself, and the more you miss the moment. And so that's another reason an awakening kind of knocks a lot of that out or tones it way, way down, is because now you have a chance to just kind of be in this moment. And that's a beautiful thing. And being in this moment actually allows for more clear thinking and less of the patterns, this thought leads to this, leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. It goes round and round and round and round. That's the way people are with pretty much everything. And they think that that's actually true. That, this set of thoughts will actually happen as they're trying to predict and control their future, and once again, probably running from more fears of death. Trying to make themselves safe. And awakening doesn't make you safe. And not having that sense of concentration really flies right in the face of the unconscious ego. It's like, I need this concentration or else I'm not going to be okay. But you will. You'll be just fine. And that's really important to remember. There's levels of forgetfulness that also comes with that lack of concentration. Because part of you is letting go of a lot of things that aren't useful. Spiritual awakening isn't meant to make you brain dead or, unable to concentrate or forget everything in your life. Rather, it helps you remember a lot of things. It's much more of a practice of remembering who you are, remembering what's important as you move out of spiritual childhood, spiritual infancy for some people. It really is, in some respects, a natural maturation into a spiritual adulthood. And it's not to be scared of, there's nothing to fear here. This is just you. And so you're finding out what's inside of you. And with that, there's this natural arising that will happen as you start to own this space. And that's another aspect, that you have to make that intention. Like, some of it will just kind of happen for a lot of people. For other people, you can kind of ride out the storm and you don't really own the awakening. It's such a subtle thing, because on the one hand, there's nothing to own. There's nothing to do. But yet, learning to be with it, learning how to act from it, right? That's that part of living in the world of duality. Tends to be very helpful and very important for a lot of people. So I just encourage you to not worry, that your focus will come back. And just give yourself time and the space to be in this place where there is nothing to concentrate on. And then, as I often encourage people to do your work, meditate and journal and whatever else comes to you, because in this space you're actually going to be very clear about what you do need to do. And in that clarity, you're going to find the next steps that will naturally help you to come into a balance of being able to be very concentrated and focused on the things that need to be done, or you need to act on, or need to know, and then being able to let that concentration go so you can flow into the moment. So these are some thoughts about spiritual awakening and lack of concentration. I hope they're helpful. You can find out all the stuff I'm talking about at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. Have a beautiful day.